Zinc Media. Feel the power of knowledge.
We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator completely. And among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Yes, it is I, your lovable host, Rod, coming to you live from my bunkerized home studio somewhere within the great granite state of New Hampshire. Yes, indeed, we are live once more here on this hump day, coming to you live from the state where the motto is live free or die. It is not big government or bust. It is hump day, middle of the week, Wednesday, December the 5th in the year of our Lord, 2012. As we march right along, getting a day closer to that infamous December 21st, somebody agreed with me that it would be a dirty, cruel trick or dirty, cruel prank by God if he actually ended the world on a weekend. Because the 21st is a Friday. You don't get a chance to party because the world's going to, you're going to be at work. Now, wouldn't it be something if it were like the movie 2012 and, the world began to end during rush hour? Well, that would suck. Well, it's going to be rush hour somewhere on the planet, I do believe. No matter, because we always like to look at the world through our eyes. And that's true of no matter where you live. I know a lot of people might say that, myself included, but for different reasons, they say Americans are arrogant because all we do is think about ourselves. Well, we're not arrogant for that reason. Because no matter where you live, look, you frame your point of view from where you are. Now, let's face it. What is James Bond? James Bond is a Brit. James Bond is British. And whenever there are Americans, like American spies and such, in a James Bond movie, they're portrayed as being less competent than James Bond, because it comes from a British perspective. Whenever we have spy movies, those people who are not Americans are less competent than our American spy. It's just, there's nothing wrong with it. It's your own national pride and national perspective. Now, the same way with French movies. If they have a French spy movie, what is it? What is the French spy secret service? I forget the name of it. But, it's pretty much they pretty much take the position. Remember the movie Godzilla with Matthew Broderick? Yeah, that bad movie. Well, they were, those were French spies that were trying to help Broderick track down and kill Godzilla. And, they portrayed themselves as being better than the Americans to take care of the mess. Now, obviously, Godzilla was not filmed from a French perspective, but you get the idea that the French are going to, if they make a spy movie, their spies are obviously going to be far more competent than anybody else's spies. And it's the same thing with China and Japan. Why don't you go look, if you have Netflix or Hulu, if you want to get a different perspective on what certain nationalities think and how they view themselves in the world, get Hulu or Netflix, because you'll get a chance to see an awful lot of Japanese and Korean movies and television shows. And I'm not talking about the Chinese chop suey kung fu karate movies. But however, you can make fun of those all you want to. I know the dubbing is bad, and I know sometimes the fight scenes seem very superhuman and otherworldly. But let me tell you something. Those movies are fantastic. I love them. I could watch a marathon of those. I call them chop suey kung fu movies. Americans had the spaghetti westerns. All those westerns. That's how some of our stars, like Clint Eastwood, got started. And they call them spaghetti westerns because they were American westerns, but they were filmed mostly in Italy. For whatever reason, it was cheaper to do it over there. The production cost was way cheap, which is how. And they sort of cranked them out, one after the other, but a lot of westerns got those types of westerns got lumped into that category, and they called them spaghetti westerns. But so I call these these are spaghetti kung fu movies, or better yet, chop suey kung fu movies. I love those things. The dubbing is bad. I know it's terrible, and the voices never. If you ever watch the movie without it being dubbed, but you have subtitles, so the actors are actually speaking in their own voice. They sound nothing like the dubbed voice. I mean, it's hilarious, but they are very good at it because usually the same actor. And the Chinese have through the 60s and 70s and 80s, when these movies were really king over there, and they were just pumping them out left and right. Usually, the actors had the same voice from movie to dub voice from movie to movie. There were a few that were the exceptions. Now, it's one of the funniest things that you can do is watch an old chop suey kung fu Jackie Chan movie that is dubbed. Now, today, because Jackie Chan speaks for himself in all his movies, we know what Jackie Chan sounds like. But if you watch one of his earlier movies where he's dubbed, that's not Jackie Chan talking. It can be a little hilarious when you first say, that's not Jackie Chan. And same thing with Jet Li. When you watch some of the early days of Jet Li movies, we know what Jet Li sounds like, because Jet Li now talks for himself in English. And when they dub Jet Li's voice in some of his early movies, that's not Jet Li. And obviously, 99.9% of those Chinese actors cannot speak English that clearly without a Chinese accent. Not even Jackie Chan or Jet Li. So not even Bruce Lee. Remember Bruce Lee? Bruce Lee always had an accent. But there was a movie I saw. Oh, what was the movie with Bruce Lee? One of his early movies. They actually dubbed Bruce Lee's voice. And you knew it wasn't Bruce Lee because it sounded nothing like him, and it had no Chinese accent whatsoever. It wasn't the masterful one, Bruce. But I love that kind of stuff. And everybody's perspective is going to be based nationally from where they live, from where they're from. And as well as there's going to be a local perspective. Now, for instance, those of us who live on the East Coast, we don't understand, other parts of the country when we go there. We can hear about it on the radio and on TV and watch it on TV and stuff, and we think, well, those people are strange. And we actually go there and we view them from our perspectives. Like, when I lived in northern Michigan outside of Marquette, my parents often called the locals there Finlanders because they did things differently from what, my folks are from New York State. And they did, and they viewed the world through their New York State point of view, through their New York State eyes. So when they get to Marquette, Michigan, and me, I'm coming from, I'm a kid, and we're coming from Greece, Athens, Greece, the country of Greece, and I'm being brought up, and I'm living in a certain type of culture in Athens, Greece, because my father was in the military. And that's, living among the Greeks. There was no base housing, so we were not sequestered, in our little own enclave. Now, there was another military American family that lived down the street that I was friends with. I remember them, Patrick and Lee Hakes. And they had a little sister, too. I don't remember her name, but Patrick was about a year older than I was, and Lee was my age. And so, obviously, we were best friends. You couldn't separate us. But there were also Greek kids on the block. So we learned, to communicate with them and play. But we began to see things through a Greek perspective because we were immersed in it. We learned really quick that during a certain time of the day in the summer when we're not in school, we had to be quiet because it was nap time or siesta time in Greece, in Athens. And on our lazy street, there were a lot of people who were, people that were home, small kids or retired folks, older folks, lived on the street. Same street the street that I lived on the name of it was Thimianu. Now, I do not remember what Thimianu translates into English. I can't remember. I have to ask my mother about that again. But we lived on Thimianu. And we had to quickly learn from how to live by their perspective and view the world from their perspective. And as kids, it was easy to do. So when I moved to Michigan, I didn't see the so-called Finlanders from my parents' New York point of view because they were older and they were, I guess you could say, cemented in their ways. I saw it. I saw even on the base, when all these kids coming from all over the place, I saw many of them as being strange because I'm viewing them in my neighborhood from a Greek perspective. And during the summer, when we get there, because we get there in May, and school gets out in the last week of May and first week of June up there. And so we're there in May. I don't have to go back to school, but here it comes around nap time again, and I'm telling my sister, family, we're got to be quiet. And people are saying, what are you talking? We got to be quiet because it's my perspective. We learned that we had to be quiet during siesta time. Well, Americans don't take siesta. They don't take naps in the middle of the day, generally speaking. So all these other kids, when they get out of school, they're running around making all kinds of noise at around noontime, 1 o'clock, and I'm sitting there thinking, wait, oh, got to time out, got to be quiet, and they have to retrain me, as it were. We don't take naps. What's the matter with you? So then they were viewing me from their point of view, which was very Americanized, and I'm thinking, well, I'm coming from a Greek point of view. So I better get with the programming. We're talking, what are you? How old are you in third grade? Like 8 years old? Well, that's perspective. That's where the perspective was. It was 8 or 9 years old. Fourth grade? Yeah, fourth grade. So it's it's not even 10 yet. Man, it seemed like that was so long ago, but it wasn't. But we view this, and there's a purpose to this. So hang with me, folks. I know somebody out there is probably thinking, what the hell is he rambling about? There's a purpose. See, we all, no matter where we come from, we have a point of reference or point of view within our life based on where we live. Now, sometimes those point of views will cause us to do extraordinary things.